Hi, it's Elle here, and today I am going to be discussing understanding hidden disabilities, diseases, and hemiplegic migraines. So, for a long time, about 6 to 7 years, I had been going to many different doctors and looking for answers because my medical health was not perfect. I had migraines, I had a lot of physical joint and muscle pain, I had paralysis all the time, double blurry vision, memory lapses, memory impairments. So I didn't know what was going on. Honestly, I couldn't figure out what's happening and what was going on with my health. And I was so tired and fatigued all the time. I had no idea. Honestly, it was just a struggle. And it turns out that I have a hidden disability. And it's called familial hemiplegic migraines. This is a genetic hereditary disease and disorder, and it's a hidden disability. So hemiplegic migraines is migraines with aura, and the reason why it's called hemiplegic is because it's a stroke-like paralysis type of symptoms that come with the migraines. So you literally can have numbness, paralysis, you lose your ability to have clear speech, you can't put two thoughts together, you can't speak properly, you have a hard time walking and talking because of the paralysis or the numbness. There's also like tingling to the feet, and your eyesight is also impacted if it's a migraine with aura. You have zigzag lines, blind spots, blurry double vision, you can be hallucinating. So you're basically, you could also fall down and be incapacitated and impaired when you have these stroke-like symptoms with the paralysis and the numbness. And usually people could be paralyzed on one side of the body, or both sides actually. Sometimes you can have a hard time swallowing because your face is paralyzed as well, or numb. Your throat is paralyzed, so it feels like you're having a stroke. But there's also a throbbing pain in your head, in your brain, that's excruciating. And I've tried different medications, I've tried everything I could, and nothing was really working, like nothing. And I kept wondering why is nothing working? It's because I have type 2 hemiplegic migraines, familial hemiplegic migraines that are, that's the genetic mutation that's prone for paralysis, and it's not the easiest to treat with medications. It's medication resistant a lot of the time. So I've had success treating the paralysis and the aura issues with the immunoglobulin plasma treatment. So that's been successful. It's plasma therapy, and it's helped to treat the migraines to lessen the paralysis. And also memory has improved because of doing the plasma therapy. And basically the paralysis was so bad, but the plasma therapy has helped to reduce the paralysis. It's helped to reduce the migraine aura. I don't have double blurry vision every day. My vision is clear, so it's helped with that quite a bit. And just the memory lapses have improved. I have my photographic memory back. I still have to write things down, and when people talk to me too quickly, I say slow down because, well, I still have to write things down, but my memory is much better. It's photographic. I've gotten that back thanks to doing the plasma therapy, and I'm so grateful. It's subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy, SCIG. And before that, I was doing the intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, IVIG. So even though these therapies are for Hashimoto's encephalopathy, that's why I was granted the therapy, it also helps with my migraines quite a bit. The aura and the paralysis. It doubles up as a double medication for the encephalopathy and the migraines. And it's also lessened my food sensitivities and allergies. So I'm less sensitive to gluten now, thanks to the plasma therapy. And I have noticed that people who do not have migraines or hemiplegic migraines, they do not really understand that this could be a debilitating disorder and can lead to disability where someone can no longer work. So it becomes a hidden disability where people tell you it's all in your head. We don't believe you. You don't have any physical symptoms of this. And we don't understand why you can't work. Like, you don't look sick. And when you have the stroke-like paralysis episodes, they get scared. And they immediately call emergency to take you to the hospital. And when you're in the hospital, they can't really do anything for you because it's a hemiplegic migraine. You just have to sleep it off and pray it goes away. But oftentimes it takes days to go away. And you can't really sleep it off. So it's hard. It's really hard. And you're looked at as if there's like mentally something wrong with you. It's in your head, but it's not mental. It's physically, you have migraines and it's impacting your life. So it's very physical. And honestly, I've been through a lot of things over the years. I've seen many doctors. I've seen neurologists. I've seen psychiatrists. I've seen psychologists. I've seen functional medicine doctors. I've seen rheumatologists. I've seen eye doctors. Who haven't I seen? To figure this out, and in the end I did figure it out with genetic testing, which I will discuss at the end, but it took several years. So doctors, employers, colleagues, etc. just say, well, it's just a migraine, why don't you take your preventative medications and it will go away? Well, a lot of the times preventative medications may help a little, or for a little while, but they stop working, and you need a different medication or medications, or they don't work at all, so you still end up dealing with hemiplegic migraines. For some, it is not as easy as just taking preventative medications because we might have side effects or intolerances to them, or they just do not all work, especially for hemiplegic migraines. It could take years to find the proper medications, or sometimes none work to stop the migraines. Hemiplegic migraines can be triggered by stress, anxiety, lack of sleep, food, bright lights, sounds, scents, fragrances, environmental factors like office spaces that have fluorescent lighting or LED lighting, and people are sensitive to the electromagnetic fields of that type of lighting, and they can see the flickering in the fluorescent lighting, so it triggers their hemiplegic migraines or migraines with aura. So those are some of the environmental factors, or just computer screen glare, loud noises in the office, smells like cleaning products, that's chemicals, solutions, perfumes in public places, where there's a lot of people if you work in public services. So there could be a lot of triggers. And for foods, it could be chocolate. For drinks, it could be coffee, soda, pop. Gluten for food as well. It could be anything that can trigger you. And there's also weather changes, like barometric pressure changes, or if it's too hot or too cold, that can also trigger migraines. The migraines can last for days or even months, and it can be very painful, especially if it is chronic migraine pain. There is little education about hemiplegic migraines, or HM, for the public. It's the patient's responsibility to know what it is, not the employer's or other colleagues. The burden and stigma falls upon the person with hemiplegic migraines or other types of migraines. As well, there are little resources medically that take migraines seriously. There's not enough funding for studies and research or to try to find cures. It's really not a lot of research goes into it, and not a lot of money is given to it, obviously. So basically, again, the burden and stigma falls upon the person with the hemiplegic migraines or other types of migraines to prove that you have migraines. And as well, I was saying there are little resources medically that take migraines seriously. Again, lack of funding. It can take forever just to get an MRI done to see if there are more white matter lesions or other abnormality changes in the brain because of migraines. So migraines do cause white matter disease in the brain, or sometimes shrinkage of the gray matter. And hemiplegic migraines could cause strokes or a heart attack or an ischemic episode. Migraines can cause damage in the form of lesions or gray matter brain volume changes over time, especially intractable migraines. This is not a harmless disease. So you could also have cognitive neurological deficits like temporary or permanent memory loss, cognition issues with not being able to pass testing or be quick enough to problem solve things. You can have temporary or permanent paralysis and walking issues. So those are some of the neurological deficits of hemiplegic migraines, or familial hemiplegic migraines, or sporadic hemiplegic migraines, as there's different types of them. People can also have stroke due to migraines or other neurological impairments that I've mentioned. From what I have noticed, people and even doctors find it hard to believe that migraine triggers could be fluorescent or LED lighting, or for that matter, fragrances, or that we may have sensitivities to the electromagnetic fields and frequencies that come from devices like computers, cell phones, printers, faxes, photocopiers. Those are all things that can contribute to causing hemiplegic migraines. If there's an electromagnetic frequency that's not compatible with you, it could trigger migraines from Wi-Fi as well, from different electronic devices. Headphones, stereo, that too. Even just landline phones. You never know what could be a trigger. Even windows could be a trigger. If the color is wrong in the glass in the window, if it's like green or something else, it could trigger migraines. It's happened to me. So, and it's hard to prove. So I, for example, need specialized lighting, accommodation, and all my lights are covered. All my lights are incandescent or halogen. I don't have any LED or fluorescent lights in my house. It's the good old-fashioned incandescent or halogen light bulbs, and they're all frosted, and they all have ceiling covers on the lamps. I also have whiteout curtains, blackout and whiteout curtains, and also shades on the windows to keep out the outside light from it when it's too sunny, or even from the neighbor's backyard lighting, because that could trigger migraines for me. Or fragrances, anything could be a trigger. If you don't know your triggers, then anything can trigger it, and you have to really learn, do you have triggers or you don't have triggers? As well as food allergies, those could be triggers for migraines, or food intolerances, those can trigger migraines. So it's really important to figure out your triggers, what's causing your hemiplegic migraines or other types of migraines. Because sometimes if you switch to a different diet, you eliminate gluten from your diet, chocolate, coffee, acidic drinks, pop, soda. So caffeine, gluten, again, wheat, corn, starch, sugar, sometimes alcohol. Sometimes that can lessen your migraines or even stop them, because that could be your trigger, or lighting. So if you really learn to study your triggers, you can avoid them and you can lessen your migraines sometimes. Some people do end up filing for disability, whether short-term disability or long-term disability, with the insurance company of their employers, or if they cannot return to work at all, then SSDI or SSI in the United States, and CPPD or Provincial Disability Assistance Programs in Canada. When filing for disability, what is looked at the most is the impairments and limitations of someone's disorder or disease that prevents them from working and restricts their everyday quality of life. The more details that are provided by the patient and their doctor or doctors, the better chance of getting disability benefits and not be disqualified. Medical information is very important, with all the reports, functional work assessment, test results, etc. Honestly, if you suspect that someone in your family ever had migraines, hemiplegic migraines, or migraines with or without aura, that there's a family history, or if you don't know if there is or not, you should still get genetic testing done, because most of the time migraines are genetic in cause and disease causing. It's most likely genetic, and the only way to figure out what type of migraine you have is to do genetic testing to prove that you have a hidden disability, a hidden disease, for why you cannot work full-time, part-time, or even work at all. I'm not saying that, we're lazy and we use migraines as an excuse to get out of work, because we're not. It's a legitimate medical condition that impacts our life, literally impacts our life. So it's serious. We're not making it up. It's not in our head. So, and for migraines with aura, especially hemiplegic migraines, there's a few different types. There's the sporadic hemiplegic migraines, which are spontaneous and not familial. So genetic testing might come back negative, or it might come back as a de novo mutation, that something in your DNA changed suddenly and you have it now, but nobody else in your family has it. Or there's familial hemiplegic migraines type 1, 2, and 3. And those are mutations in 3 different genes. And the severity depends on which gene it's in. So I highly recommend getting genetic testing to figure out what kind of migraines you have. Or it could be migraine with or without aura and not hemiplegic in nature, but that still can show up in genetic testing because there's a gene for that. So what ended up happening with me is that I couldn't work anymore where I was working, and that's in a university setting as a library technician, and I had to go on disability with the work insurance and then apply for Canadian Pension Plan disability as well. And, you know, doctors' reports were not enough saying that I have hemiplegic migraines. Even MRI test results were not enough that I had white matter lesions. I was asked to figure out what type of migraines I had for the hemiplegic ones, and the test came back that it was familial hemiplegic type 2. And it's disease causing and it causes paralysis. And I kept a migraine diary. I've taken many different medications for it, and nothing was working to lessen the migraines, honestly, except the SCIG. So there it is. I had to include a lot of different things: medical test results, reports from neurologists, ophthalmologists, work functional assessment, MRIs, SPECT scan, brain SPECT. So a lot of different test results, and finally the genetic test results, and those came back positive for familial hemiplegic type 2, familial hemiplegic migraine type 2. That's what I have. So it came back positive for that, and that sort of was the definitive proof of what I was saying, that my migraines are debilitating for me. It's debilitating at times, and it's painful, and it's awful. I'm still here, I'm surviving, I'm living, I'm making the best of my life. I'm not letting this get me down. But again, it's a hidden disability, and I had to get proof for it to validate to everyone. This medical condition that's unexplainable, that's weird. This is what it is. Familial hemiplegic migraines type 2. That's what it is. Okay. We found the missing puzzle pieces, and we've solved the mystery. That's what I had to submit to the when I applied for disability. Just because someone has migraines does not mean that we are any less than everyone else in the world, and should not be treated with stigma and disbelief like our conditions does not exist. Hemiplegic migraines have some of the worst migraine symptoms out there, like paralysis, or for vision disturbances like blind spots, zigzag lines, blurry double vision, speech impairment, numbness, gait impairment, memory lapses, hallucinations, and this can be a daily occurrence if there are specific triggers for it. Sometimes managing the triggers is the only way to prevent migraines, and folks who do not have migraines do not quite understand any of that. There needs to be more education about what migraines are, and that it is not simply a headache that will easily go away if you take some medication. It's not a simple headache. It's more than that. It feels, if you're having a hemiplegic migraine with aura, it feels like you're having a stroke. Most of the time, it's numbness with paralysis. It's excruciating pain. It's your arms, it's your limbs, it's your face, it's your neck, it's your back, it's your butt, it's your head. It's the numbness and paralysis can be anywhere on your body, and your throat even. So it's brutally painful. It's excruciating when your brain is throbbing and you're also having paralysis on your body. and your joints and muscles are aching at the same time. So it feels like a stroke. And it's also hard to differentiate a stroke between a hemiplegic migraine. So you never know, you just don't. And I ended up going with Blueprint Genetics to do the migraine panel, test code NE1201, to figure out the type of familial hemiplegic migraine that I was having. And here's some information about familial hemiplegic migraine. Familial hemiplegic migraine, FHM, belongs to the category of migraine with aura, MA. MA is an idiopathic recurring disorder of neurologic symptoms, unequivocally localizable to the cerebral cortex or brainstem. The prevalence of hemiplegic migraine is 1 in 10,000, with familial and sporadic being equally frequent. Alternating hemiplegia of childhood, AHC, is a rare neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by recurrent episodes of hemiplegia and paroxysmal disturbances associated with persistent developmental delay and cognitive impairment. FHM and AHC are typically inherited in an autosomal dominant manner. It's hereditary. It could be from your mother, your father, or even your grandparents way back when. Most of the causative genes encode ion transporters. FHM shows some clinical overlap with AHC and should be included in the differential diagnosis. So that's basically what this is, FHM. So through Blueprint Genetics, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to get your test results back for the genetic testing. They are in Finland. But if your neurologist agrees to do the genetic testing, it could be done, like the blood work can be collected in any country to do the genetic testing to ship it off to Finland. And interestingly enough, in Canada, the way you do it is you have to apply for MSP funding approval to get the genetic testing done out of province or out of country when you're doing multiple gene panels, and it's blood work is collected and shipped off to whichever genetic company that your neurologist chooses to go to. So in Canada, they work with Blueprint Genetics the most. It's very reliable. They're very supportive with help in answering questions, both the doctor's questions and clients' questions through email. So very good with that. From what I've found. And they're very thorough. So they do the next generation sequencing, NGS, and also they check for deletions and duplications of the exons and the genes that are tested. So that's very good. And their pricing is reasonable. It's 1,300 CAD Canadian and 1,400 USD, US dollars. So pricing is very important, and they cover 10 genes in the panel for the migraines. So very, very important to keep in mind. So let's have a look at their gene panel. So the first one is ATP1A2, migraine familial hemiplegic, alternating hemiplegia of childhood, migraine familial hemiplegic type 2, migraine familial basilar migraine as well. So that's what I have. And I have some of the symptoms of basilar migraines as well. The next one is ATPIA3, alternating hemiplegia of childhood, dystonia 12, and hemiplegic migraine type 3. There's also the number 3, CACNA1A, migraine familial hemiplegic type 1, episodic ataxia, spinocerebellar ataxia, cerebellar ataxia 6, epileptic encephalopathy early infantile 42. Gene number 4 is KCNK18, migraine with or without aura. Then there's notched 3, NOTCH3, which is cerebral arteriopathy with subcortical infarcts and leukoencephalopathy cadocyl, lateral meningeal syndrome. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, first 5 genes, and then there's the POLG6 gene. So POLG, POLG, related ataxia, neuropathy spectrum disorders, sensory ataxia, dysarthria, and ophthalmoparasis, Alpers syndrome, progressive external ophthalmoplegia, and mitochondrial DNA deletions, mitochondrial DNA depletion syndrome. So number 8 is PRRT2, episodic kinesiogenic dyskinesia, seizures, benign familial infantile type 2, convulsions familial infantile with paroxysmal choreostosis. Number 9 is SCN1A, migraine, familial hemiplegic, epileptic encephalopathy, early infantile generalized epilepsy with febrile seizures, plus early infantile epileptic encephalopathy type 6, generalized epilepsy with febrile seizures, plus type 2 febrile seizures, familial 3A, and C1A3 is episodic ataxia. So those are the 10 genes that are considered important to test for migraines, encephalopathy, and other neurological disorders related to migraines. And there's also the 10th gene is CLC2A1, stomatin deficient cryohydrocystosis with neurologic defects, epilepsy, idiopathic generalized GLUT1 deficiency syndrome. So those are the 10 genes in this panel. So I'm going to go on, so 10 genes, I believe, here. So I'm going to scroll down. And this goes on to describe the process of the encoding and non-coding disease-causing variants covered by the panel. So it describes to you what they cover and what they don't cover, and the different types of mutations that are there. So I really like Blueprint Genetics. Their reports are very thorough. It's easy to understand, and you get the test results in 3 to 4 weeks. That's incredible for it's a 10 gene panel. It's considered to be very small. So, and in the US, the ICD codes, that's the medical code for hemiplegic migraine is ICD =10, codes when ordering the migraine panel. And in Canada, it's just hemiplegic migraine panel. They're not asking for the ICD code. So for familial hemiplegic migraine, the ICD-10 code in the States is G43.1. So, and the accepted sample type to get the genetic test, they accept EDTA blood, minimum 1 ml or 4 ml, and that's just blood work. EDTA, purple tube, purified DNA, minimum 3 UG, saliva, origin DNA OG 500 kit. Most of the time it's just a blood sample that's collected in the EDTA purple top tube and sent off to Finland to Blueprint Genetics to test for migraines, different variants of migraines. That's the standard one, the blood test. So there's some resources about Migraine Foundations and research and stuff that they provide you. So overall, I really, really liked Blueprint Genetics' report about the different genetic testing that they do. So this really helped me understand the hemiplegic migraine panel that they were going to test me for. It's easy to find on their website. Your neurologist should have all this information already about the different genetic companies that do gene testing for migraines and other genetic causing diseases or disorders. And oftentimes, genetic testing is the only way to figure out if you have a hidden disability or hidden disease that's disease causing in your genetics, if you have mutations in your genetics. So it took me 7 years to figure out that this was all familial hemiplegic migraines type 2. You know, I wish I could have done it earlier, but it takes time to get a proper diagnosis, and it also takes time to find the proper neurologists. I work with 2 wonderful neurologists, and and I have a family doctor as well. So there's a lot of different doctors who I work with for my medical treatments. But it took time, and we finally figured out, mystery solved, and I am on some treatments, and I am trying different medications to see what works, what could potentially work for me. Still on the lookout for things. And also stress reduction, meditation, that really helps for my migraines to reduce them. And reducing triggers, obviously, for me, the triggers are the biggest issue that causes the hemiplegic migraines. So, you know, it's just about finding ways to help yourself to reduce your migraines, to see what can help to stop them, to see what's in your environment, to see what's genetically going on with you, to see what's going on with your food, your drinks. That's all important to look into, to figure out what's causing your migraines and what you can do naturally to stop them, and medication as well, if something works. And if something doesn't work with medication, you can try other medications. I've accepted what is, and I've accepted what I need to do to try my best to reduce these migraines. And I still have them several times a week. This goes on almost every week during the month. But I've learned to deal with it, and I've tried my best to manage it as much as I can. So sometimes it requires for you to change your whole lifestyle completely to help yourself not have so many of these hemiplegic migraines. And sometimes even lifestyle choices and changes can help a bit, but it's still, there's the migraine still. So it's very unique to every person who deals with them. and it's not going to be the same in terms of severity of the migraines and in terms of success treating them or not treating them. So there's a lot of variations depending on your health. And if you have other diseases and disorders that you deal with, that also plays an impact for migraine treatment. So I just wanted to cover some of that information and bring in a bit of more education to what hemiplegic migraines are. And so also testing is important, getting MRIs, brain SPECT. Those are important things to get tested for, because with hemiplegic migraines, there's white matter lesions. If you have too many migraines, you could get white matter lesion disease. Also, genetic testing is crucial to figure out what kind of migraines you have and to get answers. So try to work with your neurologist or whoever doctor is treating you and looking after your health to find answers, to get all the testing you need and to get genetic testing done to figure things out. Because for me, the genetic testing results were the biggest game changer. Seriously, doctors are taking me more seriously. I'm getting more help with what I need because I'm telling the truth. I have hemiplegic migraines. I'm not lying. I was never lying. I was never fibbing. I was never making this up. This wasn't just in my head. It's, I also have anxiety and depression that I deal with. And sometimes those are comorbid with migraines, or they stand out on their own. But I don't have conversion disorder, which I was labeled with by a psychiatrist. I don't have that. My emotions don't just physically trigger medical issues physically. No, the migraines trigger the weird stroke-like paralysis and migraine aura. So it's not all mental, it's neurological, actually. So I just wanted to discuss that and also talk about that a little. So thank you so much.